Hold up, before you get to watching this video, let me talk to you for a second. Hit that bell down below and subscribe to the Fitz Take Podcast YouTube channel so you'll know when every episode is dropping or if something has been posted on this page. Also, be sure to follow me and Elijah on our social media platforms. They will be linked down in the description. Now back to the episode. LSU also has their opener for the season coming up. They're going to be facing off with USC, number 23 USC, number 13 LSU in a top 25 matchup out there in Sin City. Elijah, what are your thoughts on that matchup between the Trojans and the Tigers?
Man, I just think that LSU can win this football game, but it's going to come down to defense because we all know that USC is always going to have one of those quarterbacks that can dink and dunk and go over the top. But this will be a good test to see if that secondary is really amped up. Last year that secondary wasn't the best in college football at all. I know that was at the bottom tier of all defensive rankings in college football last year. So with that being said, they're going to be put to the test early and often in that ball game. And if the defense can answer the bell early, I don't have no doubt that this offense could put up points. I think that we could see a complete win on both sides of the ball with the Tigers. I think that we can have a fair shot of saying they can be a top 12 team headed into the postseason, but they have to show that this week against USC.
Yeah, they have to come out and they have to set the tone extremely early, like you said. I think, like we talked about on our last show with Georgia Tech upsetting Florida State, they got to start it off with the ground game. So whether that's Josh Williams, whether that's the other guys there in the backfield that's along with him, the running back by committee, however they can get the run game generated. If they can get that going early, that sets up everything else on the offensive side. They got a handful of guys that are dealing with some injuries. I think Chris Hilton was listed as questionable. Miles Frazier there on the offensive line was listed as probable. More than likely, those guys are going to be amped up and they're going to want to play there in the opener. But what I really think is going to be important as well is, like you said, that defensive side of the ball. How are they going to be able to gel now that you've had an offseason, a spring, a fall? You have Blake Baker there as your defensive coordinator now. This is his opportunity to put his stamp early on and say, this is the mentality that we're going to have as an LSU defense. This is how we're going to set the tone. Whether it's like the setup of we blitz all night and they remember the night that they faced off with the Tigers, like however you want to set the tone, this is his opportunity to be able to do that. I think that it's, really going to be an interesting matchup. I don't know very much about what USC has across there. But when you look at an opponent on a week-to-week basis, and you're trying to set up a game plan and you're trying to establish, how you can attack their weaknesses and all those things like that, you have the weapons to be able to get it done. On defense, you got a Harold Perkins there. If it's putting him in more positions where he's able to rush the passer, if that's the way you need to attack USC, you got to do that. It can't be about, like we talked about the other day, it cannot be about this is my scheme, he needs to be here. We need to put him in positions where he's going to be able to go out and make plays. And there goes the same thing on offense as well.
Now, speaking of Perkins, I got to ask you, Fitz, what is the X factor? Who will be the X factor of this ball game of why the Tigers may pick up this win?
I'm going to say the tight end position. The tight end position is going to be the X factor because on the offensive side of the ball, everybody's going to have all eyes on Garrett Nussmeier. They're going to be looking at what the receivers are doing, how many passes are they going to drop, what are they going to be doing, and all of this stuff like that. But that tight end position, Mason Taylor, Trey'Dez Green, those guys there, if they can make it to where they are a security blanket for Garrett, whether that's, them running a drag route or slipping out of the backfield or just finding themselves an opportunity to get open and be in position. If they can be a security blanket for their quarterback, I think that will ultimately be the X factor. That will be the thing that stands out in that ball game. I'm expecting Mason Taylor to, come out and really prove that, hey, I'm that guy. This is my room as the tight end room, and I can be just as big as a factor in this offense as a Kyron Lacey, as a Chris Hilton, as an Aaron Anderson, or whoever you may want to call out as an individual on the offensive side of the ball. So as long as those guys really are able to flash and show what they're able to do on that side of the ball, I think LSU will come out with a victory in this one.
All right, man. I hear that. I hear that, brother. I say like for me, you got the offensive side of the ball. And I'm an offensive guy, but I think that guy that's gonna have to do it. You said it earlier, Harold Perkins, man. I think if he could just get his hand in the dirt and rush the passer, or if he's lining up over the left tackle, right tackle, wherever he is, and rush the passer, I think he can be that X factor. I think this is the year that he has to show us that he could be consistent game in and game out of attacking the pass and attacking the run and getting some tackles for loss and some sacks because I know we talked about it, but big time players are going to make big time plays in these big time games. And for him to make his name, because I think he can be a first round pick if he decides to declare this year, he has to just show it. And I think week one will be a perfect testament if he can get to that quarterback, play in and play out. I think HP is big for a good year coming this year.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. When you look at what this team has and all the pieces and things like that, how much of this game is not just about setting the tone, but getting out there and actually being able to get good reps? Because, in high school, you get a jamboree, you get scrimmages, and the pros, you get preseason games. In college, or you got to get out there, and the first game you got, that one counts. So how important is it for them to be able to come out and just get things clicking? They're going to make mistakes because it's the first game, but how important is it going to be for them to come out and get things clicking very early just to set their season off right?
I mean, it's important. I mean, it's not like Florida State who has the luxury of losing like this and then bouncing back because they're in the ACC. This is an SEC conference. You have to worry about Texas. You have to worry about Ole Miss. You have to worry about Oklahoma, the Tennessees of the world. You have so many teams to worry about. So you have to set the tone early. And I think that the first win will be important to show that it's not just to show that where you can be. I think it's a confidence builder as well because, like we said, USC this is already a top 25 matchup, and LSU is no stranger to it. They've been doing this for the past 2 years, but it was against Florida State this year. This is a top 25 matchup against USC, so they have to go out there and improve. But like you said, though, I think always game ones because they're going to make mistakes. To me, game ones is more so about coaching, only because you have to make those adjustments on the fly. You don't really know what to expect until you're out there. You have no game tape. You have nothing to rely on. This is a whole new personnel. I mean, you only seen them in camp. Camp is different when you're going against somebody else ones. So again, to me, it's about coaching. So Brian Kelly, if they get down 14 or down 7-0 early, make those adjustments and keep it going. That's what game one to me. It's about coaching. And once we can see if adjustments need to be made and Brian Kelly can make that proper adjustment, I think LSU can be victorious in this football game.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't understand, like, when you come out there, you put in a game plan and you run most of the time, your first 10 to 15 plays are somewhat scripted. So you know what you're trying to do, what you're trying to get accomplished as you get things started off. But the main thing is not the first 10 to 15, it's those next 10 to 15, because those are the plays that you're making where you're like, okay, if I'm on the offensive line, I remember when we would come to the sidelines, we would always get over there and coach would say, okay, what front were they in? Because if all week we looked at on film and they had 3 down linemen and they come out with 4, okay, now we got to adjust. Hey, coach, we practiced it all week long running power like this. How do we adjust it now? Like, we know how to block it, but how do we adjust it with this scheme of what they're doing? And then from there, those 10 to 15 plays are the plays that really are able to count. And so, like you said, if Brian Kelly is able to make those adjustments, because there are going to be things that USC is going to do that bring out there to, try to confuse what the offense wants to do and vice versa. If Brian Kelly and his staff are able to adjust and figure out what's going on and continue to score points, the defense holds them off. I do believe, like you said, that LSU comes out on top. So with that in mind, what is your score prediction for this game?
I got a tight one. I got a 3-point ball game. I want to say 30-27. And it's not a walk-off field goal. I think somebody makes a stop at the end and gets them off the grass. But I think it'll be a 30-27 ball game. I think LSU pulls it off in Vegas and comes back 1-0 to Louisiana. What about you, man?
I am going to say that it's going to be a close one too, but I think it's going to be a one-score game. I think LSU is going to come out on top in this one. by a touchdown. I'm going to say that the score is going to be 35-28. I think both offenses are going to get their licks, but then once things get settled in and the defenses are able to figure it out, then somebody's going to make that one or two key stops to get out on top, and then I think LSU will be able to pull away ultimately. So LSU plays off or faces off with USC on Sunday, September the 1st on ABC. It's a top 25 matchup out there. It is a 6:30 kickoff. And then from there, LSU season, they got Nichols, South Carolina, and USC from there. And you talked about having some, competition in the SEC. Once they get to SEC play, Oklahoma is ranked there at the end of the season. Alabama's ranked. Texas A&M is ranked, and Ole Miss is ranked. So, like you said, if they can't get the tone set very early on, it's not going to necessarily be a cakewalk once you get out into conference play. Thank you so much for watching this clip of the Fitz Take podcast. Be sure to like this video and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also follow me and Elijah on our social media platforms. They will be linked down in the description. And remember, every episode of the Fitz Take podcast will air right here on the YouTube channel every Monday at 2 p.m. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.